when your mind sparkles with all kinds of amazing brand new ideas and you want to do everything, but you live in a world that forces you to choose something, it could feel like picking a puppy from the litter and killing the rest. Ouch. But before we get into that, if you're looking for some clarity or direction or just another brother to hold space while you dig into your situation and come up with real solutions, click the link down below and book a call with your old Uncle E. We'll talk, you and me, mano y mano. See you there. Cool. So today we got a question from a bro who says, Yo, Elliott, I feel like my brain is a crowded room with 100 people all talking at once, all pitching me on different business ideas. One day I'm convinced I should build a coaching business. The next day I want to launch a podcast. By the end of the week, I'm designing an app. The problem is I genuinely love all these ideas. I see the potential in every single one, but when I try to commit to just one thing, I get this nagging fear that I'm leaving a great opportunity on the table. The result? I spread myself too thin, making slow progress on everything, and never really building momentum in one direction. How do I choose a path without feeling like I'm killing my creativity? Great question, bro, and you ought to know that your old Uncle Yo has struggled with the same problem, bro. Yeah, so I've been an entrepreneur for over 20 years. And my career looks like a backyard where a dog's been digging holes, looking for a bone and hasn't found it yet, right? Like you could just imagine that he's just digging holes all over the place. So the backyard is just pitted, right? And maybe, you know what? Maybe he does find some bones. I found some bones. Maybe he finds some golden bones. I've found some golden bones. Enjoy the golden bone, and then I'm digging another fucking hole, right? And that could be a little frustrating. It could be a little confusing, and it could drive you and your team crazy if you don't have the right perspective on the situation, bro. So I'm gonna talk to you about how your old Uncle E has found success and even succeeded in many different niches by following a particular principle or a paradigm that most guys will never consider. Now, I don't know if you're anything like me, you like the idea of being a big boy and building a business. And you like the idea of making lots of money and being a professional. Like there's something attractive about that. I see guys like that all the time and I really look up to them. But the desire to be that does not outweigh the fact that it's not who we are. In fact, I would go so far as to say that you've got to allow yourself to be more of an artist than an expert. More of an artist than an expert. In fact, I like to say that I'm a dilettante. What is a dilettante? A dilettante, the word usually is used in a derogatory way. A dilettante is somebody who dabbles with a lot of things, but never actually masters them. And it's interesting because recently I saw an Instagram post about Leonardo da Vinci. And Da Vinci apparently had a lot of great ideas, all of them half-baked. And you know, we reverence the guy today and we call him a polymath, but really in many ways he was a dilettante. There were lots of complaints about how he would start projects that he was hired to do, and he would just wait to get them done. He would, and in many cases, he would do a little bit and then stop. He had so many unfinished inventions. There were more unfinished inventions than the ones that we hold in high regard. And if you go to like a museum and you learn a little bit about Da Vinci, he's got like sketches of things that were like, he was sketching like helicopters before like people could fly. He was just like, his brain was just full of ideas, many of which just couldn't fly, right? Like they were just ideas. His brain was sparkling with ideas, but most of them were dead on arrival. Most of them, it wasn't the time for them. And that's one of the things I think you got to recognize as well is that like a lot of the ideas that you have, although they're good and although they may flourish and bring you fruit at some point, dude, sometimes the timing is off. I spoke about this in a video yesterday where I talked about how ADHD-minded people have sort of a skewed time perspective. And when something pops into our brain, we often think that it needs to manifest right away. But when you put that kind of pressure on yourself, You're going to end up doing a number of things, including banging your head against the wall and trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. The timing isn't right. And the ADHD brain has this lock. It's locked in on the now. And if we don't get the thing done right now, we feel afraid. So back to the artist paradigm that I'm asking you to adopt. Think of yourself as a Da Vinci. Think of yourself as a creator. Think of yourself as an artist and not necessarily a professional or an expert or a businessman. Entrepreneur. I like that word entrepreneur. It kind of sounds like it comes from the same language as laissez-faire, right? It sounds kind of French. Laissez-faire, laissez-faire. I like that word laissez-faire. Laissez-faire means let them be. Let yourself be. Let yourself be an entrepreneur. So this idea of being an artist is very relieving. It's very relaxing. It gives me the sense of freedom to allow myself to be what I actually am, a dilettante, a dabbler, someone who has multiple interests, a polymath, if you will, like Da Vinci. Yeah, I'll put my name next to his. But it also comes with a bunch of downsides, like Da Vinci was criticized because people would hire him and he wouldn't get the job done. Now, I'm not saying to be a bad businessman or a bad entrepreneur by taking people's money and not doing what they asked, right? And he lived in a different time and had a different situation. And of course, he's Da Vinci. But you and I are basic entrepreneurial dudes living in a world that has multiple options. In fact, like we probably have more ideas than Da Vinci had because we could remix everything we've seen on the internet. He had not an internet. I even think that it was documented that he was kind of a slow learner, right? Like I think his parents were somewhat wealthy and they gave him access to tools and to teachers, but he kind of was a slacker. So couple the fact that like you and I, maybe we're somewhat slackers, or maybe we're like Da Vinci and just had a little bit of ADHD. But we have so many more options that will cause us to dig many more holes that are basically half-baked ideas that never turn into anything. That's a downside to it because you could waste your time. There are a few different ways that you can go about this paradigm with sub-paradigms that's going to help you just embrace your gift as an ADHD entrepreneur. I got a whole list of them, but my ADHD is going all over the place, so I'm going to start with what's top of mind. Top of mind is don't allow your emotions to get too involved. Like as a ADHD entrepreneur, we have a lot of ideas, but the thing is that those ideas will destroy you if you fall in love with them. Don't fall in love with any of the ideas. Just see them for what they are. Sparkles, right? Like it's okay to have sparkles, but if you chase each sparkle, you're going to be running around like a chicken with your head cut off. You can't chase each sparkle, but you can appreciate them. And you could even get started on them if you remain neutral. You remain calm. You choose the boring thing. What do I mean by that? Don't allow your fear, right, or your excitement to be the reason why you bite and take that route. So that was top of mind. But I got a couple notes here that I think would be helpful for you. So sub-paradigms associated with the main paradigm, allow yourself to be a dilettante. Allow yourself to be an artist, right? Once you give yourself permission with that, there are a few different things that, are going to mitigate the downsides to that. Because boy, oh boy, are there downsides. Because I have a lot of friends that I taught entrepreneurship to. Like legitimate kids that used to come to my gym that saw me being an entrepreneur and said, cool, I want to do that too. And I gave them a boost and showed them how to do it. And now they're making millions more dollars than your old Uncle Yo. It's just the way it is, bro. And I would beat myself up about that, but I stopped because I grew up and I realized that I'm just being me and there are gifts that are associated with it. And so I'm going to invite you to do the same here. So allow yourself to be an artist, not an expert. This can be helpful, but it needs to fit into the framework of a business. Otherwise, you're just going to be a starving artist, and that's not what we signed up for. We want exchange for our value. right? So you actually got to put some value together. Sub-paradigm number one, don't kill your ideas. Just recognize them as paint, different paint, different colors of paint in your palette. And just as an artist, you can have multiple different types of colors of paint. You might have mixed a few different colors together and made your own color. And then the whole world is your canvas. So artists wouldn't say, oh, that's a bad color. He wouldn't reject the color. He wants to add more colors. He wants his palette to be full. He wants to have as many options at his fingertips in order to create something new, something beautiful, something absolutely unique. You need the colors. So if you're anything like me, you have a tendency to beat yourself up if you don't understand how your brain works. You can't, like I said earlier, fall in love with those colors. You can't let those colors become your obsession, but you got to add them to your palette. Don't reject them. Don't beat yourself up and say, oh, another idea, and just let it go. You got to bring them on. Every single one of them has some value. They need to be on your palette. And you got to look at your world as your canvas. And in terms of an entrepreneur, that means that you have an advantage because you will be a master remixer. A master remixer better than Da Vinci, because Da Vinci only had access to a certain amount of ideas based on books that maybe he had access to. You have got YouTube, and you've got the internet, and you've got lots of different ideas that can be remixed and turned into something that no one has ever seen ever before. That's your gift. But not all those creations are going to be of market value. And that's why you got to recognize that, like a Da Vinci or an artist, you're going to create a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't fly. It's just not going to sell. But you just got to be okay with that, dude. But you don't want to be hungry, so we got to move on to number two. Choose creativity over your income. That doesn't really answer the question. But choose creativity over your income, because ultimately one of those holes that you dig is going to hit a golden bone. And if you focus on digging in one hole because you read some book or you met some guru or you took some course that told you to, you're going to be digging until you reach Chinese, and you're never going to hit a golden bone. You'll get to the core of the earth and burn yourself up with lava. Just doing more and more and more of shit that doesn't work because, well, quite frankly, it worked for someone else, but it's not going to work for you. And you got to be okay with that, dude. Choose creativity, because creativity means that you're going to create something brand new. And you know what? The people who are the most revered and admired artists or entrepreneurs are the ones that create something brand new. Guys that have remixed ideas and turned them into something new. Like, I remember I was one of the first. It's one of my gifts and curses. I was one of the first here on YouTube. I literally started my YouTube channel 18 years ago, like right after YouTube began, right? And I made my YouTube videos out of the thin air. On my strength channel, if you go back to 2007 and look at the videos on there, I had no model. I had nobody to look at. There was nobody for me to look and say, hey, I want to do that. So everything that I did came purely from my spontaneity. Well, 90% from my spontaneity. I did get format ideas from other guys, like the Hodge twins and Zach Avanesh. But the point is that my content was uniquely mine in terms of, grabbing things from the internet and looking at other YouTube videos. You now have access to so much more, so your palette is that much bigger, and so you can create things. So, okay, where am I going? Back to where I was when I started. Look at where you are now, right? So I started with just very few influences, and that was good, but you have access to so much more. And then there are guys who watched me growing up, right? It's so funny. They're like, Elliott, I was 13 years old when I started watching you, and now I'm 31. And they've taken what I did and they've elevated it to the 10th degree. They're just doing it better than me. Because, you're standing on the shoulders of giants, right? And so choose creativity over income. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to make great income. Let's move on to number 3. Start with one thing and allow it to evolve. So you got all these ideas. You got all these ideas. You have to start with one. You have to start somewhere. You got to start digging a hole at some point. But that hole, think of it this way. Like I gave you that analogy, which was pretty nasty, about digging holes in the backyard like a dog. But think of it this way. If you start digging a hole and maybe you're looking for something, maybe you're trying to create something, but you don't know what it is yet, you're just following the scent, right? I smell something under here like a dog. You might find a dinosaur bone. And you start digging, but you maybe don't actually get the bone, but you start to see the shape of that hole is beginning to look like the footprint of a home. So what started out as a dog digging for a bone becomes the blueprint, the footprint, and the foundation for a home. Now that hole has evolved. It has become something else. I started my channel, which was a strength channel. Check this out. Here's how I remixed and turned it into something else. And it set me apart from every other YouTube guru out there. I started my channel and it was strictly about me doing strongman workouts. But it evolved into me taking your questions and integrating a lot of spirituality, a lot of philosophy, a lot of psychology, a lot of wisdom into my workouts. It started out as a workout channel, but what made people really love me and love my channel was that it was so free. It was free from constraints. I didn't say this is a strength channel, it needs to stay a strength channel. I evolved it and grew it. And then I turned it into channel number 2 that you're watching right now, my wisdom channel. There are a lot of people that'll see you do that and they're gonna try to lock you down. They're gonna try to pin you down and keep you in the box that they feel most comfortable with. I get it all the time. Elliott, why don't you just stick to fitness? Fuck you, I got ADHD. And it's a gift that you wish you had, dude. You just mad you not me, right? And so allow it to evolve, allow that hole, allow the thing that you begin with to get some momentum, but don't give up on it, just add more shit to it. Expand it. Allow it to evolve. Here's the next one, number 4. And I hope these are helpful to you. Tell them what they want to hear, give them what you want to give them. Tell them what they, so this is where like your marketing will come in handy, and it'll be good to be a good, savvy copywriter and marketer, right? This is where you can turn your hodgepodge arts and crafts into actual cash. Turn your arts and crafts into cash, right? Here's how you're actually going to do it. So you know what you want to make. You know what gift you want to give, but it isn't necessarily what people want right away. Because it's exciting to you. Like there's a lot of exciting shit to me, like bioenergetics is exciting to me, but I can't shove it down people's throats. So I gotta find a different way to package it so that they will receive it and I can give them what I want. Give them what they want to give them. Teach them how to breathe into their balls. I'm excited about that, but when I make a video about that, it gets very little clicks. So you gotta package what it is. So if it's bioenergetics, if it's, which is sort of an odd, obscure thing, if it's spirituality, if it's philosophy, if it's just like some weird form of exercise that you discovered, or anything just odd that your sparkling brain just stumbles upon or creates, you can't just give it to the world because they're gonna look at it and they're gonna puke. It's like that little kid who makes a piece of art that nobody knows what it is, although he spent all his time and his love creating it, and the parents and the adults or the other kids are looking at it like, what is this? What is this trash? It's got to make sense to them. So you got to wrap a story around it. You can create your weird looking little painting with all the palettes and all the colors in your palette, but you got to give it a story that makes sense to other people and show them the value in it because they won't see it right away. You got to show them how it applies to them and why it would be good. Like if you made just like a weird looking painting, right? Because you got ADHD and you got a brilliant brain that's sparkling with ideas, and you come up with something brand new that nobody knows what to do, you gotta liken it onto something, use analogies or show them how it applies to them. It's gotta be about them. If you're anything like me, you're making things for yourself. I create for me. I create because God's speaking through me. I make the music like this bird. You hear these birds? These birds are not making music for me. They're not making music for you. They may not even be making music for one another. They're just making music because that's what birds do. It's God making his music through the bird, and he's making music through you. And it's going to be unique music, Snowflake. You're different. But you got to show other people the value in your newly created stuff. So that's it. That's all. Those are my ideas on that, y'all. If you resonate with the things I'm talking about and you are a entrepreneur at your heart, because there's a 300% greater possibility for someone with ADHD to be an entrepreneur, and you resonate with me, click the link down below and let's talk, dude. I can help you ground yourself and become, well, somewhat successful like me, your old Uncle E. Done.